conveniently enough, a set of Coach luggage.
Happy anniversary.
Coach luggage, how thoughtful.
Save $2,100 on the ES300 Coach Edition at downtown Lexus of Spokane.
Payne Stewart, the mental anguish, all that pressure inside of this championship, and boy, did it explode out. Time for wonder and a time for disbelief.
Well, you appreciate it an awful lot more when you're in your 40s.
In a moment, the presentation of the championship trophy. As it's been in the past, this U.S. Open has offered some unique and memorable moments. As we leave Pinehurst number 2, we take a century's worth of its magic and mystique from this historic place. Donald Ross has proven why he was to American golf architecture what Gershwin was to music and Wyeth to fine art. And this, his proudest and most profound design, nearly 100 years old, met all expectations. Will not forget its signature, the dramatic contours of convex greens demanding such exact approaches. While their rounded forms seemed innocent, they often were ruthless, demanding, be right or be punished, ingeniously separating the best from just good. Exposing a player's vulnerability while validating Pinehurst's venerability. And when seemingly safe, too many times, whole locations expressed life of their own, rejecting reasonable aim with rubber bumper rudeness. Yet through this test, memorable moments produced gallery shouts that would echo the execution of singular effort. To conquer this course, we could smile too. And amid the ambiance of the pines, the gallery eagerly followed those who dared to be champion. And saluted those who reminded us of historic greatness. The walk-up 18 once again providing that special time, golf's encore, not just for now, but to stand and honor 5 decades of excellence. A hero there before us who had reached such legendary lengths. The Open became a fascinating forum for 3 young men in their 20s, each seeking that first national title. David Duval matching stoic and solid, methodical. To Tiger Woods, spirited, dynamic, flamboyant. And Phil Mickelson representing all that this day is about. A player of great promise, attempting to validate his game with a first major title, all on Father's Day. Expecting soon to be a father himself. Days, maybe hours from birth of his first child, announcing earlier he would forsake a chance to be U.S. Open champion, to fly home immediately at the first sign of impending birth. Mickelson's attitude reflecting the spirit of most everyone who competed today. Most men brought to golf by fathers. Men that emulated fathers they admired and loved. And history won't ever change that. Fathers that love golf, sharing their passions, inspiring their sons on Father's Day. So as we salute our 1999 national champion, the last one of this century, we recognize how this day connects with history. Payne Stewart again confirming his place in the history of the sport. Taught the game by a father who insisted when he tried to qualify at age 15 that he sign the form William Payne Stewart, to be formal, to present yourself that way. It's our national championship. Payne has said his biggest regret is that his dad died before he won his first U.S. title. It's called a major championship. Indeed, for each of us, once again, a major experience. Still appears, Johnny, to be right on that emotional
Ladies and
edge.
gentlemen, will you please join me in welcoming the 1999 United States Open champion, Payne Stewart. All yours, sir. Once again.
You want me to talk?
I was just going to say, how do you begin, Payne, to put this championship, the moment you just realized a few moments ago, into perspective? Not only winning the Open for the second time, but in the storybook fashion you just pulled off.
Well, I have to, first of all, I have to give thanks to the Lord. If it wasn't for his, the faith that I have in him, I wouldn't have been able to have the faith I've had in myself on the golf course today. So, thank you, Lord.
Payne, and the resiliency you showed today on the golf course, making all the big putts when you needed them, and of course the one at 18, but with what happened last year and the experience that, well, the scars were still there, we know. You've talked a lot about it this week. Everybody's asked you about it, but to win it coming off of that year.
Well, I don't know that I know what to say right just now. Woo!
You said that experience made you tougher, and there were numerous times on the golf course today where you had to dig deep.
Well, I could never give up out there. Phil played unbelievable. He really did, and you'll win yours. You'll win yours, and I know Amy's at home, and I'd like to express to Phil and Amy that being parents is a special thing, and I'm glad that he's made the commitment. Whether he got the beeper today or not, he was going to be there with his wife, and that's very special. And I was with my wife for both of my children, and there's nothing like being parents. And I think that Phil's gonna have his opportunities again. Mine might be on the short list.
To win a national championship and to win it for the second time, but you've talked about it also this week, about dreaming to have the putt to win a U.S. Open. What was going through your mind when you knew you had to make it?
Well, I read the putt, and I said, even though it looks like it wants to go left, it's inside right. And inside left. Where did I play it? And I putted. I stroked the ball well all day long. I hit a lot of great putts, and I just said, give yourself a chance and do the. I went through the same routine I went through on every putt, and it went in.
Well, I'm going to let you gather yourself for just a second here, Payne. I do want to bring in Phil Mickelson for just a moment, Phil. Phil, a lot of people thought it would be your destiny this week. You arrived in town late Tuesday night. Your wife, Amy, expecting on June 30th, asked all week long about it. A lot of people thought this would be your first year to break through at a major championship. You dug deep out there today as well. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. It was an exciting tournament for me, and I had a great time today. I know that the outcome wasn't what I had hoped for, but I thought that the putts that Payne made on 16 and 18 showed what a great champion he is, and I think he represents the United States exceptionally well as our champion.
Before you leave, Phil, you've spent quite a bit of time apart from Amy. I'm sure you probably have a message to relay to her back in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Well, I just spoke with you, and I'm going to get home tonight, and in a couple of days, hopefully, we'll have our first child.
Congratulations, Phil. Well, back up to Dick Enberg.
Now, what is it about sport that makes grown men feel like kids again?
That was absolutely fabulous. You'd think Payne Stewart hitting 7 greens in regulation today on some of the toughest slopes you've ever seen, and shooting level par, 24 putts today. There's never been a player that's made 3 putts of that length the last 3 holes to win by 1 in a major championship that I can remember. 16, it was over 20 feet. 17, the magnificent iron shot and a 5-footer there, and then that straight uphill putt at 18, which had to be hit perfectly to be made. You don't expect that out of anybody, especially a guy that's 42.
Payne Stewart is the champion here at Pinehurst number 2. The executive producer of NBC Sports and the producer of today's telecast, Tommy Roy. Today's telecast was co-produced by Tom Randolph, directed by Bucky Guntz. As we conclude our coverage of the 99th U.S. Open, we remind you that NBC Sports extends its golf coverage to the internet. Log on to golf.com this week. News, statistics, analysis on this U.S. Open. Check out real-time scoring, full audio, video tours of the course, live audio coverage of players' press conferences, and the #1 rated audio show on the net. It's all at golf.com. By the way, we tried to get Tiger Woods to join us, but you can imagine his disappointment. He declined. And be sure to join NBC Sports on Saturday, July 10th. Our coverage of golf's national championships will continue. The 20th U.S. Senior Open from the Des Moines Golf and Country Club in West Des Moines, Iowa. Again, third-round coverage begins Saturday, July 10th on NBC Sports. And coming up next on NBC, it's the world's most amazing videos, followed by Geraldo Rivera special, and the movie suspense thriller The Client, all coming up next on NBC. And a reminder that tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern, the NBA Finals continue. It's Game 3. The Spurs, with a 2-game advantage, travel to Madison Square Garden, meet the Knicks. Again, the NBA Finals tomorrow night on NBC Sports. For Johnny Miller, Gary Koch, Dan Hicks, Roger Maltby, Mark Rolfing, and John Schroeder, this is Dick Enberg. Goodbye from the 1990 U.S. Open in Pinehurst, North Carolina. With a brilliant, heroic putt on 18, Payne Stewart is twice U.S. Open champion.
The San Antonio Spurs, the New York Knicks. The Spurs' Tim Duncan and David Robinson came up big again in Game 2. Now the NBA Finals shift to the electric atmosphere of Madison Square Garden as the never-say-die Knicks look to rock the house. The NBA Finals, Monday night at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific on NBC.
This fall,
hello, Mr. President.
Get a taste of real power. From the executive producer of ER and the writer of A Few Good Men comes one of the next great American dramas.
With the clothes on their back, they came through a storm.
Last year, and the times that he's been leading the U.S. Open, and to finally get it again for the second time. But from a more selfish standpoint, I'm glad he made it, because it would have been tough sleeping for the next few nights.
Can you just tell us what it was like to be out there with the 4 of you so close, the leaderboard changing all the time?
Well, I saw the leaderboard change, and I knew that Payne and Phil were going to make mistakes early in the back 9 because they were put on the clock, and we were put on the clock too as well. I don't know what the USGA is thinking. We're last 2 groups in the U.S. Open, but that's where they are. And I figured if you rush in the U.S. Open, you're going to make a mistake. And they made a couple bogeys. Payne made a couple bogeys in that same stretch when he was on the clock. So I just tried to basically post even par. And I thought that if it didn't win, it would get into a playoff tomorrow.
Okay, is there another one over here?
Tiger, can you talk about the short putts, 11 and 17, and how you hit them? And is that the pain that you're going to take from here, those 2 little ones that you missed?
No. No, I'm not going to take that. Well, 17's not that short, 8 feet. Yeah. It's short, but not that short. I mean, it's very easy to miss that. But at 11 was a putt that I should have made. But it's just unfortunately I didn't. But then again, if you look at my entire week, I made a lot of putts this week to save myself. A lot of putts from 15 feet and in, just for pars. And without those, I wouldn't be in this position I was coming down a stretch to win.
Rich.
Tiger, good effort. Now that the week is concluded, what's your view of Pinehurst number 2, and would you like to see the Open come back here?
Well, I think this golf course proved that it is a championship golf course. I mean, they've had a tour championship here, they've had a senior open, and it deserves another U.S. Open because it's a golf course that tests every single facet of your game, and most U.S. Opens don't. They driving, putting, the lob wedge, hack out, and then hopefully you can get up and down from 100 yards. That's what most U.S. Opens test. This tests every single part of your game, and it was great to see. And the guys are basically just off the green, making doubles, and you don't see that very often. And especially when they have a chance to putt it, bump and run it, a whole bunch of different options, and they're still making mistakes.
Straight ahead.
Tiger, you talked about how steady you were over the 4 days in terms of playing. You also appeared emotionally steady over the 4 days, never too high, never too low, seemed to enjoy all 4 days. But set aside Augusta, is this the best you've ever done in that regard, or how different is it from your other majors?
I mean, in major championships or regular tournaments as well? In majors only? I think it's one of my better ones. There's no doubt about it. It's always easier to maintain your emotions when you're swinging pretty good. It's tough when you have no clue which way it's going to go. At least every day I understood which way the ball was going to go. For 2 days I hit it left, and 2 days I hit it right. But each day I knew which way I was going to miss it, and it's always nice when you can play for that. And in most of the tournaments and most majors I played in, I had the two-way miss going. And it's really hard to maintain your emotions when you don't really know which way you should aim. Should I aim left or should I aim right?
Over here.
That was my question.
Okay. We got a mic down here, or who does somebody? Oh, and a beer. Okay.
Tiger, at what point were the two groups put on the clock, and what was your reaction to that at the time?
We were put on the clock in the front nine. I think around 7 or 8 we were put on the clock, and we remained on the clock for about 4 or 5 holes. And then when we were walking off 13 tee, I commented to our rules official, the guys behind us should be on the clock because they're a hole behind, and because we were half a hole behind, we were already on the clock. And he said, yeah, they've been on the clock, and that's when the guys started making some mistakes. I don't know how long they were on the clock for, but I knew going up 13 fairway that they were on the clock.
Tiger, the missed putt on 11, how far did you think that was? And also, can you talk about the putt on 18?
2.5 feet.
No, the long putt on 18.
Okay, you asked me about the missed putt.
Yeah.
Okay,
2.5 feet, right. But can you also talk about the putt on 18 that just missed?
It was about a 35-footer straight up the hill, left to right. I broke about 2 feet, and wasn't that hard a putt. It was just a putt that I figured I could make, and I almost made it.
Tiger, you talked briefly about the emotions that Payne must have had standing out there trying to pull himself together. Can you talk about what it's like as a player to watch somebody do that, and you've had to do it? What's it feel like?
It's tough. I guess it's only comparable for you all to have a deadline to meet and someone's yelling at you to meet it, and if you don't, you're going to get fired. It's pretty intense, and you got to get it done, and that's the hard part of it. That you got to put everything aside and then focus on your task, and somehow control your emotions inside and your adrenaline level and whatever your conscious mind may be thinking, left, bunker, right, water, whatever it is, and you got to fight that inside. And I think that's one of the challenges that we as players face in major championships, is trying to handle the mental side of the game. Because when you're swinging well, it's not that hard, but you start seeing things coming down the stretch, and that's what makes it tough.
Okay, right here.
To shift gears here, how is Carnoustie going to be different from here? This is a course that you won on, so what are we going to look forward to next month?
No, I haven't won on it, but I've played it twice.
You didn't win the Scottish Open?
No. That was Gordon Sherry who came close. When I've played under basically every single different kind of condition imaginable. Rain, wind, calm, sunny, cloudy, foggy, and I think that was all in one round. But it was a challenge playing that golf course because it's probably the toughest one that they have over there. And when we played it, we had some rough that was reminiscent to Shinnecock, waist-high grass, but it was closer to the fairways. And a couple of guys pulled out because they hurt themselves. And it was a brutal test. But then again, it was an opportunity for you to run the ball on the ground. If you can do that, it's all right. But I don't know how narrow they're going to make the fairways for a British Open.
Over here, please.
Tiger, did you see Payne make the putt?
I did. Saw it on TV, yes.
Going through your mind at that point?
I was hoping he'd make it. I was just, for two reasons, as I said, just praying to God he made it. For him to battle back from last year and as well as all the other times he's been close. But I'm glad I could sleep a little bit better tonight.
Over there, okay.
Tiger, sort of related to that, can you talk about Phil Mickelson's round just a tad and what you think? You've been in that situation, I'm sure, final twosome, one guy going to make it, one going to lose, and kind of the heartbreak aspect.
Well, it's part of playing athletics. And there's someone has to win, someone has to lose. And it's terrible when you're on the losing end. It doesn't feel good. But there's one thing that you can take from it is that I'm sure Phil gave it everything he possibly had inside. And you shouldn't hang your head for that. Unfortunately, somebody beat you. Phil didn't play bad today. I mean, he played a solid round of golf. And that's all you can ask for. Someone else just beat him. And that you can accept, because that's part of athletics. But if you stumble down a stretch and you give someone an opportunity to win, or you just gag it away, then that's a tough way to go.
Okay, over here, please.
Tiger, while the moisture may have softened the greens a touch, did it affect distance control at all? Did it make it any tougher to control any flyers or anything?
No, I drove in the fairway most of the round, so I didn't have a problem with that. The only problem was controlling your little bump and runs, up the greens, because of the moisture. You had to hit it harder, and it's just hard to make yourself hit it that much harder when the other side is going away from you. And you have to do it, but you don't want to do it. And if you hit it too soft, starts bumping into the grain, you come right back at your feet. And I think that was one of the mental challenges that you had to accept, is go ahead and just trust it, hit it hard. If it goes by the hole, that's fine. Go ahead and make the putt coming back, but just don't make double, and don't leave it back at your feet.
Okay, we'll have a couple more. One over there.
Yeah, Tiger, does this performance leave you feeling both more hungry to win an Open and feeling more confident that you will win an Open?
This golf tournament has been a tournament I've always wanted to win, because I've won 3 U.S. Juniors and 3 U.S. Amateurs, and it would be nice to win 3 U.S. Opens, and that would be pretty neat to do. And I had a good chance this week, but it just proves to me that I know I can win a Masters, and I know I can win a British Open, because I've come close and won one. So it makes me feel like I can definitely win a U.S. Open now. I know I have the game, I have the mind for it, and it's just a matter of time.
Hey,
what effect did being on the clock have on you personally? And it seems that you disagree with the whole premise of why you're on the clock.
Well, I disagree about being on the clock when you're in the last few groups of a major championship. And if somebody gets a bad time and then gets another bad time, that's a one-shot penalty. And with the greens as severe as they are, I mean, if they're flat, that's fine. Put us on the clock. But if they're severe like this, it takes time to figure out these slopes. And if you get 2 bad times, it costs you a U.S. Open. I don't think everyone will be very happy about that. And it's just, I understand the pace of play rule, but there are exceptions to it. And by looking at these greens, I think that's a pretty good exception.
What effect did it have on you?
What effect? The funny thing is the last 2 days I've been on the clock. Yesterday with Phil, we're on the clock for about 4 holes, and today about the same with Timmy. And it's tough to do because you look at these greens and you miss them. It's tough. You got some weird shots. It takes some time to figure them out, and you don't want to blow it. But then again, you don't want to get a bad time. And I got a bad time yesterday on the second shot into 12 because the wind changed on me. It went from straight into me to straight across, and I had the wrong club. I backed off and hit the shot correctly, made my par, and formed I got a bad time. And it'd be tough to say, you know what, if I do it again, I'm going to get a one-shot penalty, and to lose U.S. Open by 1 would be pretty tough to swallow.
We got another one good one? Good one.
Thanks, Les. Tiger, you and actually David also talked a lot this week about how much you love the difficulty of the course. You love the fact that it was a really difficult challenge of golf. Is that because it reduces the field, or because you take more pride in the challenge of conquering a course like this or winning a title on a course like this, or is it both?
Both, definitely both. I remember Nicklaus saying, and I don't know who wrote it, one of y'all, that the U.S. Open was probably the smallest field you ever had to beat. And it's true, because usually right around par wins. You just need to hang in there. And most of the players don't have that ability to hang in there and swallow your pride and hit shots that you don't normally hit because they're used to making birdies and have to make birdies to win. That I have to look at it and say Jack was right, because it's a golf tournament that tests your mental aspect, your mental approach. And it's a difficult challenge. Usually U.S. Opens have high rough, fast greens. This week it was opposite, low rough, slower greens, but they were mounted, worse than Augusta. So with that in mind, you just need to hang around. And most of the players either haven't learned it or are unwilling to change from the birdie mode. And I think that's one of the reasons why Jack Nicklaus was so great, because he was able to change back and forth.
Any final words?
I'm hungry.
Thanks for coming.
All right, you got it.
Fitting close for Tiger Woods. He's hungry for that first U.S. Open championship. 6 times a USGA winner. Comes very, very close. He expressed his love for the golf course. Pinehurst number 2 says he would like to see it return here someday. He, however, was not all that thrilled with being put on the clock. In the end, though, Tiger Woods fell on the blade of his own putter. He missed a couple of very short putts, and that did him in. Phil Mickelson, a valiant try. He comes up just short in his bid to win his first major. Phil Mickelson will be along next. Stick with us. We're back with that press conference in just a moment.
I can see it from both sides, but personally I favor a looser clock on the guys coming down the stretch. Let's face it, guys earlier in the day at every tournament play much quicker, and they set a pace that's probably unrealistic for the guys at the end who have a lot more at stake. To rush a major championship like this, particularly when we're done several minutes before the 7 o'clock TV deadline, is silly. I don't see why they were put on the clock.
Phil Mickelson doesn't yet have that elusive first major, but how much more newfound respect does he have after this performance?
Well, he always had my respect. He played a terrific round of golf. He probably played better than Stewart. Payne got a couple of breaks. The ball kicked off the mound on 16, and even though he had a bad chip, it kind of took 6 out of the equation. He made a great 4 there. Phil seemed like was making tap-in par all day. Payne was working a lot harder. I just felt like Phil. It was a quintessential heartbreaker. He really played a great round. Imagine standing over a golf ball every time, wondering if the beeper's going off. A tremendous guts job by Phil.
Payne Stewart now has 3 major championships. I believe this is his 11th overall PGA Tour victory. We're kind of in the Larry Nelson category now. Would you vote Payne Stewart, based on what he has got to this date in the books, into the Hall of Fame?
Well, I'm a little puzzled as to what the Hall of Fame's all about, but I think 3 majors puts you in a much different category than 2. If you look at the breakdown, that jump from 2 to 3 is certainly as significant as the jump from 1 to 2. Now, if he can win another, and he says he's almost out of time, but I don't know about that. He comes to this tournament and plays great every year, and if he can win another one, he's Hall of Fame definite.
Definitely has a spot on the Ryder Cup team and may have a future captaincy on that team as well.
That's what he wanted, the Ryder Cup.
Hawk, thanks as always. Great insight.
Thank you.
That is John Hawkins of Golf World. Phil Mickelson on his way, and we will have that press conference for you when we return in just a moment. The heroic runner-up.
We'll entertain questions. Over there.
Phil, considering what else is going on in your life, is this going to be easier to get over?
Considering what?
What else is going on in your life?
I think it probably will. I think that although it's a disappointing day, it's been a disappointing day for me. The fact that our first child is expected to come here in the next week or so is awfully exciting, and something that I'm looking forward to. It'll be a change. It'll be a bigger change of my life than had I won today.
Okay, we have a questioner right down here.
Phil, was 16 the key hole for you that this week? And if so, what was it about 16 that was so?
Not really. It was the same as every hole. Par was the goal. It's obviously a long hole. The only thing was I had an 8-foot putt for par, and I just missed it. I made most of the others today, and I just missed that one. The tendency this week was for me to just pull those putts just a little bit. I putted very well, but on 16 and 17, I pulled those just slightly and missed by an inch or two.
Over here, please.
And Phil, when Payne hugged you at the end on the 18th, what did he say to you when he grabbed you?
He just said that he's really happy for me, in that Amy and I are expecting our first child, and he's really excited for us. Payne is a very thoughtful individual, and I have a lot of respect for him on and off the course.
Over here on the right.
Phil,
go ahead.
When Payne was settling in over that putt on 18, the TV cameras zoomed in on you, and you had a very perceptible smile. Were you just smiling at the theater of the moment, or what was going through your mind?
Well, I was thinking, gosh, if it goes in, I'm going home tonight. I'm going to see Amy, and if it doesn't, then I've got to stick around for another day, and I just hope that the baby doesn't come. And now I kind of hope that she does. So either way, I was going to walk to the hole and shake his hand and congratulate him on a day that he played exceptionally well. And it just so happens that he finished the tournament off.
Let me just ask the question. Had you and one other player earned the right to a playoff, and you got a call, that would be a little different than if you had to leave the entire event.
How so?
You would lead one person there to become the champion. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Possibly?
but come middle of June next year, we're going to have another Open.
Okay. Right here.
Excuse me, I thought you were going to say another baby. Have you talked to Amy? It's been the biggest subject here this week. Have you talked to Amy since you walked off the course? What'd she say?
She feels what I feel. She has been very supportive of my career, and she and I have a very close relationship, and she can tell what I'm going through, and we go through the same emotions. And so it's been difficult for both of us, and I think it's probably harder for her because she's not the one making the shots. She doesn't really have any control. It's very difficult to be in that role, and she's been a wonderful asset in my life.
Over there.
Phil, if you could just describe your thoughts or feelings on 17, watching Payne hit that shot to the pin and then coming through like you did with that shot.
Well, really it was that shot where he knocked it close where the realization that he could beat me entered my mind. Because until then I felt like I was in control making pars and that I was playing well, and as soon as he knocked that 4 feet, I realized that that pars might not be good enough, and so I ended up hitting a very good shot in there, but just didn't capitalize on the putt.
Right here.
Phil, will you talk a little bit about Payne and just you were very gracious to him when he won it. Just what are your feelings about him as a player and as a person?
Well, he's won quite a few majors now, and I think that his game has to be respected. He seems to always be in contention at the Open. He and his wife have been very gracious with Amy and myself, and I've enjoyed spending time with the two of them. So I have a lot of respect for both he and his wife.
You said they've been very gracious to you. How
they've been very gracious. They've been nice.
Over there.
Payne, Phil, do you think you grew up today as a player?
I don't know. I think that time will tell. I think that it'll be interesting to see if I'm able to break through when I get in this situation again, and it'll be interesting to see how long it takes me to get back in this situation. I've put a lot of emphasis on the majors this year, and I think that adds to the disappointment, and that I've been looking forward to those 4 particular tournaments so much, and putting so much emphasis on those that it may add to the disappointment. But on the other hand, I think that by doing that, I've also seen some improved play in the majors for me from the Masters and the U.S. Open.
Over there.
Thank you. Phil, as the match was progressing, was there any conversation or mention between you and Payne about just what a great match it was, or
not really?
No.
I think that we didn't really speak too much during the round for the reason that the golf course was enough of a challenge, and we had enough on our mind trying to make pars that chatting about something else just wasn't in the picture.
Over here, please.
Yeah, it's right here.
Yeah, that's fine. We need a mic down here, please.
The club, please, on 17, and how far was the putt, and what happened on the putt?
I had I hit a 7-iron on 17 to about 8 feet, and the putt looked like it had a tendency to go left early and right at the end, and I tried to play it straight, and I just pulled it just a little bit, and it didn't take the break going left, and then it just missed too far to the right. I didn't get it out far enough on the left side of the hole. I needed to have it about left center, halfway there.
Over here, please.
Yeah, Phil, the last several holes, it didn't seem that you didn't show that you felt a lot of pressure. Was this as fun to play in as it was for us to watch it? For you, what was going through your mind, and were you feeling pressure? You just weren't showing it.
Well, it certainly is a nerve-wracking time. The last 9 holes of the U.S. Open, tied for the lead, and I tried not to show it, and I tried to stay relaxed, and I felt like I did a decent job of that. I felt like I played decent as well. I think that the last 3 holes, I just didn't have that little extra that Payne showed. Payne came through with that little extra on a couple of his putts, and I ended up missing both of mine.
Phil, speaking of the last 3 holes, Payne's toughness over the years has been questioned. The last 3 holes today is as tough as anybody could be. Can you address how tough of a competitor he is?
Well, he seems, the one thing that I would say about his career is that every time, whether he's won the tournament or not, he's had he's faltered slightly. He has come immediately back with a birdie, and after he bogeyed 12, I knew that because the pin was susceptible on 13, I knew he was going to make birdie there. He just does that all the time, and so to question his toughness, I don't think would be fair. And the reason that he waits for players to falter. He puts himself in position to win tournaments, and he waits for players to falter, as he did in the 91 Open, as he did in the 89 PGA. Today, he made something happen in that he ended up playing under par the last few holes. And typically, pars are good enough to win the Open, but he made the birdie when he needed to on 17.
Okay, you have another one over there?
Phil, when Payne grabbed you by the side of the head after he made the putt for par on 18, he's obviously very exciting, and he's telling you that he's happy for what's going to happen to you. What are you thinking? I mean, can you even hear what he's saying or thinking about what he's saying?
Yeah, and it was sincere. He I don't know what to say. I mean, we're friends, and he's a sincere individual, and I have a lot of respect for him. And he was genuinely happy for Amy and myself that we're expecting our first child, and I know that fatherhood is a special institution for him too.
We have one over here.
Phil, did the playoff, the possibilities of a playoff enter your mind before 18, and how it might ramificate in terms of Amy and the baby?
The possibility of a playoff entered my mind on 17 when I was one down. I felt like the best I was going to be able to do on 18 was, or to hope for, was to be a playoff. And so playing the last hole, I was just trying to make birdie to get a tie, and I still felt even if I made par, I had an outside chance. I think that had we gone into a playoff, it would have been a difficult situation to deal with. I don't think that it would have been a problem, but again, you just never know.
Two more. One over here.
Phil, when were you guys put on the clock for how many holes, and did that affect you at all?
No, I've been put on the clock every day, and typically what happens is there's a big delay. We wait and we wait and we wait, and then those groups take off, and then there's a gap and we're timed, and it happens it happened every day for me. So when that happens, you just take the precaution. You have your my caddy Jim ran up to the ball early, got the yardages, because the clock doesn't start until I get there. And what's funny is that when I get on the clock, I have to walk slower, because if I walk quick up to the ball, the timer starts quicker. That happened to me one time at Colonial, although it's not a USGA event. I got fined because I ran up to the green, asked the players in front of me to go ahead and play out, and they said, "I don't know, don't worry about it." Well, I took too long catching my breath. I got slapped for 1,000. So I just walk slower now.
Rich, last one here.
Phil, your reaction to the galleries, which seem to be really pulling for you, and then also your reaction to the galleries, which seem to really be pulling for you, given your situation, which was well chronicled. And then, would you like to see the Open come back to Pinehurst someday?
Well, I would very much like to see the Open come back to Pinehurst. I felt like this was the first Open course that I've played that tested every area of a player's game, from the driver all the way through the short game. Those two areas really haven't been tested much in the 8 or 7, 8, 9 Opens I've played in. The galleries were exceptional, not just to myself, but to Payne and the rest of the players. I thought they were very supportive and very cordial. I think it would have made for a cool story for my daughter to read about, as she got older. But it's still something special.
Phil, thanks and good luck.
Okay, I birdied
that is very gracious.
number 7.
Phil Mickelson, who just fell a little bit short
hit
today.
a,
Payne Stewart was a bit better in the stretch, making that sensational birdie at 17. And certainly the sort of tit-for-tat on 17T will be replayed for a long, long time. Stewart hit it in there very close. And then Mickelson, cool as ice, also stepped up and delivered a magnificent blow. Stewart able to make his birdie putt. Mickelson was not able to make his. And then Stewart with that incredibly clutch putt, the par putt at 18. Mickelson could do nothing about it, but what an Open for Phil Mickelson. Even in defeat, he elevates his stature, but still at 29, he is without that long-coveted first major championship. But most importantly, he will have a daughter, God willing, in the next week or two. Phil Mickelson certainly accorded himself beautifully in this, the 99th United States Open Championship. Payne Stewart is on the way. You will hear live from the winner. But first, we're going to take a short break, and we will come back with more of the live press conferences in just a moment.
The key to scoring in golf is to get your ball close to the pin, and no other club can do that better than the new Pure Spin Diamond Face Scoring Wedge by DW Golf. The secret lies with the Pure Spin's proprietary 5-carat diamond crystal coating on the face.
I can't believe how quick the ball stops.
Out of the sand, these exclusive diamond crystals preserve and protect the performance of the Pure Spin, so you get optimal spin and trajectory with every swing. Out of the rough, make it stop. Off tight fairway lies, make it check. And of course, the Pure Spin conforms with USGA rules.
I now have a club that I hit from 100 yards down to 20 yards. I'm chipping in balls I never chipped in before, and it's really changed my game.
Call 1-800-613-2578 now and get your Pure Spin wedge with the exclusive diamond face coating for only 3 payments of $39.95. Get the club that helps you stop the ball on the green and saves you strokes the very first time you play. The Pure Spin Diamond Face Scoring Wedge.
The only difficult thing about wearing Cross Creek shirts is choosing which great style to wear. Cross Creek, the exceptional shirt.
I hit the ball just as far today as 20 years ago. Equipment is better for one thing. Titanium instead of steel. Advil instead of Tylenol. Nothing takes yardage off my drive like sore muscles. 2 Advil before teeing off, and I'm good.
Stronger than the pain that comes your way. It's Advil that works fast to relieve aches and pains.
That was the equipment, right, Dad?
That was me. For all kinds of pain, it's Advil. Advanced medicine for pain.
Welcome back to the Golf Channel's live coverage of the 1999 United States Open News Conferences.
Well, do you love this sport? Does it ever disappoint? It doesn't seem that way. What a day of golf, and I'm really pleased to be joined right now by the former president of the United States Golf Association, the esteemed Judy Bell. And Judy, I know you enjoyed this grand theater today.
Wasn't it, though? It was over the moon. Just can't get any better than this. It's wonderful.
Is this one of the great opens that you have ever seen? And then maybe give us 2 or 3 others that come to mind when you rank some of the best opens of recent or past vintage.
Well, I think the ones that I've witnessed recently, of course, was Shinnecock in 1995, and probably Pebble when Tom Kite won the last time I was there. So 92. So those in the last decade, I would certainly rank this right there with them. I think, in so many respects, it's just been the greatest Open. It's been wonderful.
Judy, a year ago, Payne Stewart, in coming so close to winning at Olympic, expressed his displeasure at being put on the clock, particularly because he was in the last group and had been held up, he said, by media getting in place before he teed off. Now, we just heard from Tiger Woods. He, too, expressed his displeasure at being put on the clock. His feeling was that with greens so severe, it was very difficult to play in the allotted time. What is the USGA's position in these kind of pressure-packed situations regarding being put on the clock?
I can't really, I'm a past president, so I don't represent the USGA to speak publicly, but I will say that I think the time that they're given to play a round of golf is very generous, and I believe that with pressure or without pressure, you ought to be able to play in that amount of time.
USGA did not come to Pinehurst for all of this past century. Tell us why the USGA in the past had been reluctant to come here, what put Pinehurst in the picture, and what factors will lead the USGA back to this venue.
Well, first, I believe the reason the USGA did never bring the Open here before was the heat and the condition of the greens. The greens had to be longish in order to live in the summertime, and so I do think that was a factor. And the conditioning of this golf course was certainly U.S. Open caliber all the way. What will interest the USGA in coming back here was the great success it's been in all areas. It's been absolutely outstanding, from the friendliness and the support from all the people in North Carolina and right on down. The USGA likes successes, and it has been one.
Judy, a great pleasure to see you. Continued success.
Thank you.
All right, that is Judy Bell, former president of the United States Golf Association. We are awaiting the arrival of your championship winner, Payne Stewart, and that will be a most interesting news conference. You will get to see it live when we come back right after this. Well, we are now being told that Payne Stewart, one of those uncomfortable moments, is in the building behind us, so we are not going to go to break. I'm being told we are going to go to the Payne Stewart press conference. This certainly will be called redemption for Payne Stewart. He came so close at Olympic a year ago. He had that sizable lead going into the final round. He faltered. Lee Janzen passed him with that 68. Remarkable that at 42, against much younger competition, Payne Stewart could summon the kind of courage, the kind of commitment, the kind of energy that clearly it takes to get back to this level. You do not get all that many cracks at U.S. Open glory. But 10 years after winning his first major championship, Payne Stewart is a major championship winner yet again. So now Payne Stewart has 3 majors to his credit. He most certainly will be on this year's Ryder Cup team. That is what he has said all along has been motivating him to get his game back to this level. He missed the intensity of Ryder Cup competition. He last played at the Belfry in 1993. 4 times he's been a member of the Ryder Cup team. He has felt all along that the recent Ryder Cup teams were lacking in emotion, lacking in a certain spirit he feels he can bring to the team. Well, they're going to get that spirit. They're going to get that emotion at Brookline this year. And if this performance is any indication, they're certainly going to get their fill of clutch putts. Payne Stewart receiving a rare ovation from the media. It doesn't happen that often. You just don't see it, but it is well deserved. Let's now join the Payne Stewart press conference.
I want to rectify something real quick. I did ask for champagne to be delivered here. But they don't have any in the clubhouse. I'm very sorry. Seriously, I did. I went up and asked him. I said, well, whatever, bring it on. I'm ready. Oh my. Thank you. Yeah. I got a place for that.
Well, you had it at home for 1 year, didn't you?
I did.
We had a fight to get it back.
Well, it was definitely that. Wow.
Well, why don't you just follow the wow up and give us your emotions?
And if I did that, I wouldn't be able to speak. Hi, Rich. How are you? Thank you. I needed a little comic relief. All I want to do is give myself a chance, and I gotta give thanks to the Lord for giving me the ability to believe in myself, and without that peace that I have in my heart, I wouldn't be sitting here in front of you right now. So, along with that, I never gave up. I kept playing. I kept plugging. I didn't hit the great shots at certain times, and then I did hit great shots, and then I'd hit great putts and poor chips, but I got the job done, and that means a lot to me. I sat here last night and told you all that if I won again, that I'm going to enjoy it a lot more, and I will. It'll be easier to understand the obligations that come along with being the United States Open champion. It'll be easier to understand that my family comes first, and then if I have time for those obligations, I'll take care of them. But having not spoken to my children yet, or my mother, Hopefully they watched. I know my mother did. My kids, I don't know.
Would you need this, the last two putts that you made, 16 and 18, you tell us the
How
length.
about the one on 17?
17 and 18, okay. Tell her the length. 18.
Well, 16, for some reason, I felt like I needed to chip that ball in, and I hit a very poor chip, and that wasn't I shouldn't have thought that way. I should have just, felt like I felt like I needed to do it, and as it went 25 feet past the hole, I said, you didn't need to do that. And so I stood up there and I got my line and I went through my routine that I've been doing all day long with my putting, and I made my stroke and I look up and it's going in the hole, and it's another birdie on 16. Off I went. And then 17, I finally I put a real good swing on a 6-iron, and I was telling the local media, everybody else outside, that at Hazeltine on the 17th hole, the 5 rounds that I played there, every time I hit a shot, it was right at the pin. And all 4 of my shots on 17 went right at the pin this week. And when it ended up where it did, I definitely thought Phil was going to make his. I mean, after I hit that shot, he makes one of his only bogeys. How many bogeys did he make today? He didn't make very many. That was it, wasn't it? 16. And once he made bogey, and I stood up there and hit that shot, and he followed it up with a great shot. And then he putted first, and I expected him to make it, and then he didn't, and my putt was inside left edge, and I did it again, and I made another one, and then I stood up there and collected myself pretty well on 18T and hit a drive. I actually thought that drive was in the fairway, but I got up there and I had no chance to even think about the green, so I took my medicine and put the ball out there where I'd at least give myself a chance to get the ball up and down. And that's what I've done this week. When I was in a bad position, I didn't compound the situation by making 2 mistakes in a row. So once I saw where Phil hit his shot, I didn't feel that he was going to make that one. That was a very difficult putt, and he hit a great putt, and he's such a good putter. And he makes 4, and I played my wedge shot in there. I walked up there and I figured out, okay, you want to be underneath the hole putting back up at it, and I would have liked it to have been a little closer. But after watching Phil's putt break hard up there right to left, I'd practiced there before during the practice rounds. I knew my putt's going to go up and it was going to go to the right. Even though the mound wanted to influence that, I just knew in my mind that it was going to go to the right a little bit. And so I stood up there and I read it and I said, this is an inside left putt. Just believe that. And I stood up there and did my routine and kept my head still. I got to thank my wife for the putting tip that she gave me. But which was to keep my head still. She watched me yesterday and she says, you're moving your head. Yeah. So I worked on it a little bit last night, and I kept my head still on that putt, and when I looked up, it was about 2 feet from the hole, and it was breaking right in the center, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that I'd accomplished another dream of mine. And
how long was it?
I don't know, 15 feet probably.
Okay. They asked me to.
That would be my rough guesstimate, that it was about 15 feet, probably about 5 paces up that hill.
Okay. I know this is anticlimactic, but we must do this.
The must card. 3-wood 7-iron on 1 to 10 feet, 15 feet, made it for birdie. Driver 3-iron to the bad 3-iron to the right of the green on 2. even a worse chip, and then putted my next one and made about a 5-footer for bogey. 3-iron, 9-iron to 2 feet on 3 birdie. 10 I got away from that bunker today, but then I played a bad shot as my third shot. Spun it back and made bogey there, missing about a 10-footer. 12, drove in the rough, took my medicine, chipped out, wedge shot to 15 feet, 2 putts. 13, 3-wood, 9-iron, 15 feet, made it for birdie. 15, 4-iron, missed the green left. Chipped a 7-iron about 8 feet and hit a really good putt there. I thought I'd made that putt when I looked up. I couldn't believe it didn't dive in the hole. 16, driver, 2-iron. You saw that 25-footer. 17, 6-iron to 3 feet. And 18, driver, 9-iron, lob wedge putt.
Rich, first question.
Payne, congratulations. When we
Thank you.
spoke a couple of weeks ago, you told me that your most cherished victory was the first one that you had ever had, even in spite of the 89 PGA and the 91 U.S. Open. But that was Quad City in 1982 because that would be the only one your father would see you win. Do you still feel that way after what happened today?
Oh yeah, Richard. That will never change. I mean, he was there, and we had a good cry on the green after I won in 82 at Quad Cities, and that will never change. No matter how many, if I'm fortunate enough to win more majors or more golf tournaments, the 82 Quad Cities will be my most cherished victory.
Just some thoughts on this being Father's Day, on what he meant to you and what he might have thought had he been here to see it.
Well, we were at home before I came to the golf course today, and the opening of the show on NBC today, they ran a little piece and they talked about myself and my father and showed a picture of him, and I stood there and bawled in front of the television. And Tracy was in the other room, and so she didn't see it, but I stood there and cried and thought a lot about my father, and probably got a lot of strength from that, and then came on out to the golf course.
Okay, we have a question first in the back there.
Payne, Phil said that on 16 when you, right here, on 16 when you chipped past there, he was already in his mind thinking about Tiger as being his closest pursuer, and I was just wondering if you could talk about how big it was for you to make that putt.
Well, it's obvious that that was one of many putts that I made today that won the golf tournament, but timing was everything. Like I said, it was a horrible chip, and I was thinking about trying to make the chip instead of thinking about getting the ball up there and make my 4 and go on, because Phil's missed the green, and I didn't go over and see what kind of lie he had. It didn't matter. I had to take care of myself.
Who's got right over here is a mic, and then we'll keep them floating.
Payne, when Phil was in here, he said he thought he was in control of the tournament until 16, and you hit that shot on 17. He said that's the first time he realized that you could beat him. What were your thoughts, and did you ever feel like you were in control of the tournament?
Well, in control, I thought I played a beautiful front 9. I mean, except for the shot on 9, but that was it was a great par. But I forgot about that. That was a good par. I thought, until the back 9 where I missed the fairway on 12, and that rough was nasty. I mean, it was wet, and it just wasn't, it was nasty. So, I wasn't thinking about Phil or Tiger or David or anybody. I was thinking about getting the job done and doing what I had to do to give myself a chance. And, after I made bogey on 12, my caddy said, there's a long ways to go in this golf tournament. And I came right back with a birdie on 13. And, there was. I mean, I just wasn't going to hand the trophy over to him.
Right here.
Payne, could Tracy join you? She's over here having
she doesn't want to be up here at all. No.
She's got a little press conference going over here in the corner.
She's not enjoying that either. Sorry, honey. Something you got to do when you're my wife.
Okay, right there.
Payne, I wonder if you could elaborate a little bit more about your fantastic putting today and those super par-saving putts. That really, I think, won this championship for
Well,
you.
I knew that it was going to come down to having to make putts to win the golf tournament. It happens that way anywhere. And last night on the putting green, Tracy stayed at home and was, because she can't see in the gallery, so she watched it on TV, and she came, first thing she said to me, she says, "You got to hold your head still." She says, "You're moving, you're wanting to see it go in, wanting to see it go in." So I went out on the putting green last night after I left here, and I worked on that. And I putted with my eyes closed. I putted and never looked up. And I took that out on the golf course today, and I never moved my head to watch a putt go in until I knew it was well away from the putter. And I've heard on television before that the thing that one of the detriments of Payne Stewart's golf game is, he's not that good a putter. Well, maybe I squelched those rumors.
Over here.
Payne, how long was your putt on 18 last year to win the Open, and how difficult was it? Talk about how difficult that putt might have been, and compare the situations, if you will, please.
Well, I don't think I can compare the situation for the fact that I wasn't playing as well last year. I was just struggling to hang on, and I thought I did a pretty good job of that, and then got beat by a great round. But I felt like I was playing a lot better this time, and the putt at Olympic last year was probably 20, 25 feet, but it had huge break in it. And this putt today, like I said, from 15 feet, it was right up, inside left. It was a very makeable putt. The one at Olympic Club was, 1 in 50 maybe.
Right here.
Payne, on Tuesday, when you did your preview interview, I asked you a question about having extra bounce. I knew that you were up because it was a major. Everybody's up more for a major. But it just seemed like you had more. And when I wrote about that, I said I had 2 kids that went to semi-formal dances for the first time this year. And they had what I called anxious anticipation. And I compared that to you. I said, you struck me as someone, the only player here, that really seemed to have anxious anticipation. Did you know something we didn't know?
Well, I thought I was very prepared for this golf tournament. It was probably a blessing in disguise that I missed the cut at Memphis, because I came in here Saturday. My swing teacher, Chuck Cook, and I walked around on the golf course. I took an 8-iron, a 9-iron, a pitching wedge, sand wedge. We just walked the golf course and hit a bunch of chip shots and a bunch of putts from all sorts of areas. And I did that again on Sunday. And, I was here when nobody was around, and I got a lot of good work done on the golf course. And I think that my preparation was why I was so excited, because I knew I was playing well. Even though I didn't make the cut at Memphis, I think my mind was thinking about this week. And I've been working at it and putting the time in and seeing the results, and I felt like I was very prepared for this week, and I developed a game plan during my practice rounds, and I stuck to it. I mean, even when the wind started blowing, I never hit driver off the first tee. I hit 3-wood every day, and I hit the fairway every day. And by the way, I drove the ball pretty well for the week, so maybe my stats on the PGA Tour will get better.
In the back.
Payne, you talked the other day about unfinished business,
I'm on the Ryder Cup team now, Melanie.
Hey, I know. You talked very unemotionally and technically about 18 and the way that you played the hole, the way you lined up the putt. With all that unfinished business and all that, could you talk about the emotions and what it takes to stand there and maybe block all that out and
Well,
make the
Melanie,
putt?
I really, I don't want to, I'm proud of the fact that my faith in God is so much stronger, and I'm so much more at peace with myself than I've ever been in my life. And that's the reason that I was able to gather myself and conduct myself. And where I was with my faith last year and where I am now is leaps and bounds. And that gave me the strength to stand up there and believe in myself and get the job done. No, I mean, I didn't question how I played the hole. I stood up there, we come walking off the tee, and I saw the marshal go over there and stick a yellow flag in the rough, and I looked at my caddy. I said, "That's in the rough?" He says, "Yeah, I think it is." So I got up there, and you got the walking announcers always go over there, and then he doesn't really. So I got up there. I kind of knew what kind of lie I had, and so I dealt with it. I had the only option I had was give yourself a chance to get it up and down with your wedge game, and then my wedge game was pretty decent all week, and boom, and put it in there. I walked up there. I saw where I wanted to try to make a putt from, and I put the ball in that position. I wanted it a little bit closer, but I gave myself. I played what I thought all week long, very smart golf out there.
Jerry?
Yes. Payne, could you discuss what winning on this golf course means, if it is special, and winning in this area?
Well, I think myself and all the contestants this week will attest to how grand Pinehurst number 2 is and how special a place it is. I don't know that anybody's walked in here and said this is horrible. I just, if they did, then they've got a different perspective than I do. But it's a special golf course. It goes to show, 1 under par wins the golf tournament. Even par was. I'm sure most of you were betting on a playoff tomorrow, thinking, "Oh man, I got a boat. I got to hang around again, and Stewart's doing to me again." But I think the USGA is very pleased with what happened this week with I'm sure they wanted it drier, but the golf course stood the test of the United States Open, and I think that they'll be back again.
Payne, I run the New York State Junior Golf Tour, and everybody in this room, I'm sure as a kid, dreamed of being in your position today. And the kids, I can tell you from here on in, at least in the next couple weeks, will be thinking, here's Payne Stewart, I'm Payne Stewart, I'm going to hit this putt. What does that do to you?
Well, I used to think I was Jack Nicklaus when I was... Same thing, on the putting green. Oh, I'm going to be Jack today, and I'm going to make this one win the U.S. Open. I guess I'm proud of the fact that the kids would want to be Payne Stewart. I think that's pretty neat that somebody aspire to be myself.
Over there.
Payne, how much do you attribute your past success and defeats in U.S. Opens to this victory?
Well, I think that what happened last year, I really built on, and I was prepared for today. I was prepared for all the movement of the media. The USGA did a great job of blocking off tees, so we got put on the clock again. I was prepared for that. I was prepared for that sand divot I got on number 4, but I didn't play that good a shot. But I was prepared to play a good shot. I just think that I learned a lot from last year. I mean, if you can learn from defeat, then I think that makes you a much better player.
Right here.
Payne, 2 victories this year and in contention quite a bit more. Did the U.S. Open last year, is that responsible for what lit a fire in you this year, or was there another moment or something that has turned your game around?
Excuse me. Yes, what happened last year at the U.S. Open, everybody, oh man, what a great try you did, great try. Well, I didn't want to hear that today. didn't want to hear that when I got back to Orlando and all my friends came up. Boy, you sure tried. You know, it was a great effort. You're a great competitor, but bad luck. I didn't want to hear that, and that motivated me. I mean, the Ryder Cup, you know, I've contended all year long. The Ryder Cup's motivating me. That's one cup that isn't sitting on this table right now. It's on the wrong side of the ocean. Hopefully I can do something. You know, I maintain that if I wasn't on the team, the only way I can make a difference is get on the team. I can't rely on Crenshaw to pick me. So that's been the driving force for me. And 300 points will put me up to 917. Thank you very much. And I will be on the team.
Over here.
Payne, when you were studying that last putt, you're right. We were out telling you to make it so we could go home tomorrow.
I appreciate that.
Besides inside left, what were you telling yourself?
I was saying, look, just give yourself, you know, you've given yourself a chance. You're here. You know, do the same thing you're doing. Believe that you've read it right, and make your stroke. And I did all of the above. I putted. You know, you guys watched it. I putted my little derriere off today.
24. How good is that?
Well, that's better than I've been doing all week.
Do you see you got a rival over there for attention?
What's that?
You have a rival?
Oh, it's my wife.
I know. Where's the mic? Okay.
Payne, right here. Would you elaborate on just how hard you had to work today, and would you have been able to summon that again tomorrow if you had to?
Well, I would have had to. I would have had to summon it again. I mean, you got to do what you have to do to win. But you know, I'm fatigued right now. I'm tired. Your gut just churns, and you know, I know I should be hungry, but I'm not. And if I had to play tomorrow, I would have gotten up for it.
Right there.
Payne, how is this different from the two previous major titles you've won? You've tracked down guys in those two, but the emotions of holding people off here, how is that different? And also, where do you think 3 major titles in 10 or 11 years puts you in the golf lineup?
Well, I'm going to answer the latter question first. Where it puts me in the golf world is, you know, it's what I believe for myself. I'm a pretty good, pretty accomplished player, and nobody can ever take that away from me, no matter what's written about me. So, you know, I think that I've accomplished a lot in my golf career. And I forgot your first question. Well, I kind of came from behind on Simpson at 91. You know, there was a 2-shot swing on 16 on Sunday. There was a 2-shot swing on Monday in the playoff. You know, but it felt so good today. I mean, I don't know how high I jumped. I know that I got a credit card jump shot, but it felt like I was skying. You know, it felt like, ooh, I was way up there. But it felt so good to accomplish what I did today.
Over here.
Payne, congratulations to you from those of us who came from Europe.
Thank you.
We came here expecting a good chance of us winning here.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, we got stuffed out of sight. What have we got to do? What have we got to do to win this tournament? And what are the implications of the American dominance of the results sheet for the Ryder Cup, which is obviously close to your heart?
Well, I don't know. I don't have an answer to why the Europeans don't perform well at the U.S. Open. There's some great players over there that should perform well at these tournaments, and why that happens, I don't know. Maybe it's a mental block to them. I don't have the answer for that one, but the Ryder Cup, I'm excited about that, and there's going to be a lot of new faces on both sides. I mean, David Duvall's never been on a Ryder Cup team. which is really hard to believe. But this will be his first Ryder Cup, and there'll be a lot of new faces on the European team. I understand that Jesse's not going to play whether he makes the team or not, which is it'd be tough to be a playing captain. It really would, and I think he's going to do a wonderful job as captain. I think Crenshaw's going to do a wonderful job also.
Go ahead.
Hey, could you let us in on the putting routine that's worked so well for you this week?
Well, what I did today was I choose the line that I saw the putt, and then once I took my position to the side of the ball, I made 2 practice strokes with my eyes closed to feel the distance. And then I got up and I aimed my putter on the line that I saw, and I said, hold your head still, and I made the stroke.
In the rear?
And I didn't do that routine all week long, just today.
And a few years ago, you said that being Open champion actually affected you. You found yourself going out trying to play like a U.S. Open champion and be a U.S. Open champion. And you said you're going to handle it differently this time. Is that what you're talking about? And how will you handle it differently?
Well, it's exactly what I'm talking about. I think that I'm a lot more prepared to deal with everything that goes along with holding on to this trophy for a year. I don't plan on changing my schedules. I plan on doing the same things that I've been doing that got me in position to win today, which is working out and spending a lot of time at home and playing when I want to play and playing when I feel that at golf tournaments I enjoy playing at. And I don't look forward to running after the elusive dollar because I've been invited to go play here and here and here and here and here and here. I'm looking forward to, as soon as the tournament in Valderrama's over, which ends, the 7th or 8th of November, of not playing again until the Hawaiian Open. I had so much fun being at home, being a father, getting up in the morning, making breakfast, taking my kids to school, going to high school athletics. That's where my life is right now, and I'm not gonna do what I did in '91 along that line.
2 more, right back there, and then here, and then we're done.
Payne, first of all, happy Father's Day and congratulations.
Thank you.
What do you think you're going to bring to the Ryder Cup team now that you're officially on it?
Well, officially, I don't know. I think I bring enthusiasm. I'm a very outspoken person. I've got a lot of energy. I think I bring some knowledge to the guys that are going to be on the team, such as David Duvall, that it's not going to be used to hearing people cheer when he misses a putt. And being able to prepare the guys on the team. I feel like I'm a rah-rah, I'm a rah-rah person. I'm going to, if I'm teamed up in the whatever I'm playing in, and I have a partner, boy, I'm going to be in his ear. If he doesn't want me to be in his ear, then I won't be there. But I'm going to be very supportive, and I'm a very supportive person when I'm on a team.
Jeff.
Two-part question, Payne. How much did it hurt to be not considered the last couple of years, last couple of Ryder Cups? Secondly, how much of a tougher player are you inside now than you were in the past?
Well, I think that, what's motivated me to this year was the fact that I couldn't rely on the captains to pick. I felt like I was a legitimate selection, the last 2 Ryder Cup teams. I thought the captains' choices that they picked were good choices. That's something that maybe I'll have the opportunity to do later in my career, is be a captain, and then I can be analyzed. Well, why'd you pick him? Why'd you pick him? Why'd you do it? I can be that analyzed, be put on that pedestal to be carved about. But in answer to your second question, yes, I'm a lot more mentally prepared to deal with these situations than I have been in the past. And I'm going back to the fact that my faith is stronger. And the Lord's given me an ability that He wants me to use so I can stand up here and give Him the praise.
Thank you very much. And
Thank you,
great
ladies and
job.
gentlemen. God bless you.
Well, Payne Stewart wins his second U.S. Open. He becomes the third player this decade to do just that. And I'm joined right now by Tracy Stewart, his beautiful wife of nearly 18 years. What a day for you guys.
Yes, it's been really special at the end. It was very stressful for most of the day, but it turned out pretty good. So.
And for those of us who will never get to experience that moment, try to describe for us what it's like after he makes that putt, you embrace and hold on to something so special.
Yeah, it really is. It's an unbelievable feeling. You know, it's so much emotion and you know, you let the stress out and it's finally happened and it's just a great thing. You know, this is what he worked so hard for and he finally accomplished it today.
You guys met in Kuala Lumpur in Asia when Payne played through the Asian Tour in the early 1980s before anybody knew who he was. How is the Payne Stewart that you know today different than the Payne Stewart you met nearly 20 years ago in Asia?
I think he's a lot more mature now, and I think he's become a better person, tried to be a better person. His religion, you know, really means a lot more to him, and his family obviously comes first now as well. He's just tried to be a better person.
The choice of rain gear today was rather colorful.
Yeah, I believe he took the sleeves out of the jacket. It was a bit tight for him, so he knew he had to have a rain jacket on of some sort, but he didn't want to be restricted on his swing, so he just ripped the sleeves out.
Payne is always doing something. He's always doing something interesting with his clothing. And finally, you gave him the putting tip, which probably won him this championship.
Well, you know, yesterday I noticed on the TV, I was watching back at the house, and he was moving his head a lot on the putt, so I just said to him last night, you know, just keep your head still and just believe in yourself. And he did it, and that was the first thing he said to me when we hugged on the 18th green. He said, I kept my head down. So,
special day.
Yes.
Well, Tracy, we thank you for dropping by. Enjoy the moment, enjoy the days and weeks ahead, and have a great, great Father's Day with the United States Open champion.
Thank you very much.
All right, that is Tracy Stewart, and we're going to come back with some final thoughts in just a moment.
Guide to our more than 550 courses.
The reviews are coming in, and people are saying Arnold Palmer, golf's heart and soul, should be in every golfer's home. Never before seen photos and home movies, as well as exclusive interviews.
I met Winnie on Tuesday. On Saturday night, I asked her to marry me.
Included is conversations with the king, more memorable moments, and a peek at the making of the documentary. Makes a perfect Father's Day gift. Call 1-800-TGC-7566 to order.
Nothing connects you to the course like the new Black Widow cleat from Soft Spikes. Soft Spikes. What brand are you wearing?
FrogDog.com, your anytime, anywhere sports store. Frog Dog.
Coming up next,
Get the latest golf news, scores, and highlights on Golf Central. Next on the Golf Channel, we're talking golf.
Tonight on the Golf Channel, it's U.S. Open Week. Here's what's on in prime time. Welcome back to the Golf Channel's live coverage of the 1999 United States Open News Conferences.
Rich Lerner, after an exhilarating day, much more to come, though, so stay tuned. Payne Stewart touched on his faith, his strengthened faith, as being one of the major reasons he is here today, 1 year after letting the Olympic Open slip through his grasp, now a champion again for the second time in this most difficult of golfing tests. Where did the devotion come from? Well, according to his wife Tracy, Orel Hershiser, the acclaimed baseball superstar who, like Payne Stewart, has navigated so brilliantly so many pressure-packed situations in his own baseball career, Orel Hershiser, about 1 year ago, gave Payne his daily devotion, basically scripture to read each and every morning, and Payne has really applied it. And there were certainly times in his career where Payne Stewart maybe was a bit petulant, was not always great with the media, but this is, as Tracy said, a new Payne Stewart, but same old Payne Stewart in some ways, a man who can deliver in the clutch. As for U.S. Opens, where do you rank this one? Certainly I'm no expert, but you can go back to 1960, Cherry Hills and Arnold Palmer, 62, Jack Nicklaus beating Arnie in a playoff at Oakmont, Lee Trevino, Oak Hill in 1968, and again in 1971 at Marion. You've also got Johnny Miller, the 63 at Oakmont in 1973. You keep going. Tom Watson, Pebble Beach in 1982. Certainly this would have to be the best Open of the 1990s, and what a way to close out the century. We should hope that the next century brings us U.S. Opens this perfect. Golf Central is coming your way next, and then it doesn't end. Peter Kessler with a cast of many, many guests on Viewers Forum. For the entire crew, I'm Rich Leonard. Thanks for being with us.
Coming up next, get the latest golf news, scores, and highlights on Golf Central. Next on the Golf Channel, we're talking golf.
You're watching the Golf Channel. Here's what's on in prime time tomorrow.